Hello and welcome to one of these unscripted movie reviews where I come out of the cinema and I do my thoughts on a film, Unscripted. Today I watched The Flash. This was good. I'm literally blanking on this film. I think I'm first going to jump to the CGI because that's what stood out in the film most to me, and the CGI is abysmal for the most part. The director Nic Cage came out and said the CGI is purposely bad because it goes with the warping nature of the Flash or whatever. I don't believe that for 1 second. I understand why it would look dodgy in the time warp segments where it's like a coliseum of events and that. I think it kind of works in that environment where everything's warping. I just don't know though. It just doesn't look good. And the thing is, it's a mishmash as well because it's a mishmash of live action faces and CGI faces, and they're right next to each other. It just doesn't work. Also, the Flash suit looked pretty bad. The shadows and stuff just don't match up with the suit. It's really weird. They need another few months to work on the CGI in this film. Hopefully they can improve it for the physical release or the digital release, because it's just very distracting and it's a big complaint from a lot of people. But apart from that, it is a pretty good film. The first thing my dad said when he came out of this film was they're trying to rip off the MCU, and I can really see that with the whole multiverse aspect that was really started with No Way Home. It does feel like a bit of a rip-off. We see an alternate Michael Keaton, which is in the trailers. We also get to see a few other big faces that I'll do in my spoiler section, but it is really fun seeing all these cameos, even though I do think they linger on some of them for a little bit too long. With a recent film that I saw, they dealt with the cameos and appearances much better, where it didn't feel like it was shoving the cameos in your face, whereas I feel this one is very much doing that. I think the performances are really solid for the most part. Ezra Miller, they've been in a lot of controversy in the past months, but I can put that aside. I can separate the art from the artist or whatever, and their performance was very solid. They managed to play two different versions of Barry Allen, one which is kind of very annoying and does get on my nerves, but the other Barry Allen is the one that showed up in Zack Snyder's films. I felt like he's dealt with really well in this film, and I felt like his story has continued very naturally from the Zack Snyder trilogy. Also, we get Superwoman, who's really great in this film. She's really threatening. She doesn't get a lot of screen time, but I like what they do with her, and I like how she's not just a woman version of Henry Cavill's Superman, and they work her into the story pretty well. Same with Michael Keaton. It's great seeing him back on the big screen again. Overall, solid story, solid characters, solid performances, solid writing, god-awful, terrible CGI. I give it an 8. Now onto the spoilers. We got some really, really great cameos in this film, like I mentioned. We got Nic Cage Superman, which I was not expecting at all. If you don't know, they were planning to do a Nic Cage Superman movie in the 2000s, I'm pretty sure. I think it was with some big director as well, but I can't remember what the director was. Yeah, they were planning to do this Nic Cage Superman movie and then got scrapped, and instead they did Superman Returns, I think. But it's really interesting seeing him on the big screen imagined, even if it's an awful CGI abomination of Nic Cage, but still. Also, we got George Clooney at the end when Barry Allen goes into an alternate universe where George Clooney is now Batman. That was really fun. I never want to watch Batman and Robin because I heard it's one of the worst films of all time, but I like how they treated it like a joke. It was a really funny ending to the film. We also got Christopher Reeves. and the Supergirl from the Supergirl movie, I think. Again, I haven't watched the Supergirl movie. I don't think it's that good, but again, it's nice to see them in this film. And Christopher Reeves, it's good to see him not return, that sounds weird, rest in peace, but it's nice to see him on the big screen again. I think they just used archive footage of him. Again, like I said, it's weird seeing live action footage next to CGI body doubles. You got Nic Cage Superman, who's fully CG, and then you got Christopher Reeves Superman, who's used up from archive footage. It's just really messy. You also got 1960s Batman, I forgot his name, Adam West. You got to see a little glimpse of him as well. We also got the main Justice League at the beginning of the film. We got to see Ben Affleck's Batman for what I think is the very last time. There's a lot of emotion in this film as well. You got Barry dealing with his mother and the whole struggles with that and her death, and how he comes to deal with her death. I like the story. I think the story is really solid. I think Nic Cage did a really good job. I only really know Nic Cage from the It films. I think he's only really directed horror films before this. It's very similar to James Wan and Aquaman. James Wan had only directed horror films before Aquaman. I think Nic Cage is the better of the two when it comes to directing films out of their lane, because Aquaman was extremely cheesy and it had Amber Heard in it. So yeah, but overall, I don't really have much else to say. You got the return of Zod from Man of Steel, which is interesting to see. Michael Shannon, I don't mind him returning in this film. I'm waffling on for too long here, but yeah, that's really all I have to say.